Hello, welcome to Matrix Live, Season 5, Episode 9, Take 25.
Yeah, we have been having every technical problem imaginable, both laptop audio subsystem failing, now my internet connection crapping out, so this will be the one, right? Where we're going to be able to actually record Matrix Live. How's your week going, Amandine?
Very long and not yet over, but anyway, that's how it is.
Yeah, we may not be at our most coherent, particularly having run through the spat 48 times now, but basically Ben pinged us and said, hey, I don't have anybody to talk on Matrix Live today, do you want to do it? And we said, yay! And also at the same time, yay. But it's fun, and I don't know, apologies if we are more waffly than normal. What's been going on, Amandine? Tell us.
Well, we have Riot X, which is almost launched.
Yep, we're almost
We're
there.
getting there.
I reckon 2 weeks left, possibly, although we'll see how it goes. And I think we're on release 022 at the moment, but most excitingly, VoIP has landed, or is about to land, for WebRTC one-to-one calling. And it's even got picture-in-picture for video calling. Do we know whether Valera is going to actually put that video into This Week in Matrix?
I don't know if because you asked him to, but I think he was already leaving or something. I'm not sure. If he doesn't, let's tweet it.
Yeah, it's a really fun video showing the new picture-in-picture stuff. And I think basically the only thing that's left now is some of the rework work, which we're about to talk about, but also performance is still not quite up as the level that we hope it will be. So we're going to be spending the last 2 weeks worrying about performance. And then the plan is to literally replace the copy of Riot Android in the Play Store with Riot X, full stop, and drag everybody kicking and screaming into the year 2020.
Yeah, one morning everyone will wake up in a brand new shiny Riot. Sort of.
Sort of. What else has been going on?
Well, meanwhile, iOS is having a hard time with getting lost into push hell. Thank you, Apple.
Yeah, I'm sure that people are familiar with the fact that iOS 13 totally changes how push works. It means that you can't cheat and pretend you're a VoIP app in order to receive encrypted push in the background, and you have all sorts of new constraints which are a metric pain in the ass to get right. Poor Manu and Ishmael have been working away solidly at fixing this, but I think it's pretty much done now. We had a new test flight this morning, which is seeming pretty robust for me. Have you had any problems with it?
Was it this morning?
Yeah, I think so.
It felt like 2 days ago.
That's Friday for you. Pretty sure it shipped this morning. And
Okay, so I didn't install it immediately. I updated earlier and haven't had time to play with it yet.
Okay,
But I know I've been having issues with the others, but I was the only one having them. So hopefully this one is the one.
Yep, everything is looking good there. So thanks, guys, for pulling it together. And talking of push, notifications in general is one of the big first-time user experience projects which we've got really locked into. I'm sure you recall us talking about the importance of making Riot's first-time user experience not suck. And after lots of distraction with the end-to-end encryption stuff, we're finally making good progress on that. So there is this nightmarish project going on to get notification semantics correct. It's really stupid because basically all we want to do is to change the default push rule for group chats to not push. So you get pushed for your DMs and you don't get pushed by everything else.
Which sounds pretty simple and straightforward, right?
Yeah, because you can do it in the app right now. You can literally go in and hit the checkbox and it does the right thing. But you would not believe the Pandora's box and the avalanche of fail that it opens up if you try to automate the transition to doing that. And I think last I heard this afternoon is Rich VDH throwing his proverbial toys out of his pram and basically saying, right, this is it, push rules just fundamentally broken, don't work, I'm going to throw it all away, I'm going to burn it to the ground, I'm going to change that entire bit of Matrix. Hopefully he's backed away from that, because I think we did have a viable solution before, but it is a nightmare. But on the plus side, if it works, and it will work, obviously, we should have very new glossy UX coming for Riot Web, which does not look like the horrible, ugly radio button grid or matrix that we have today, but instead properly designed UI controls for it. And then hopefully the guys on mobile will have it too.
So I I can see myself sitting in Rennes a few years back, actually drawing this matrix on the whiteboard, so you can blame this entire broken UX on me.
Well, really? For Riot
Yes.
Web?
Yes. I was the one, I think I used to still have the pictures of putting down this thing. One day I sat down and said, okay, how are we doing to do this? And just like, poot, poot, poot.
Well, this is a story of Riot in many ways. I'm a power user. Amandine's even more of a power user. And a lot of the UX that we have and that we know and that confuses first-time users is basically due to us going and making it quite power usery based on our use cases. And so getting the design team to take over and apply sanity on that has been a good exercise in self-control in terms of us taking our hands off the wheel and saying, look, please go and figure it out without us and without us screwing it up. And this time perhaps it will be good. And this time, honestly, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. In terms of other things looking good, there is the end-to-end encryption. We're fixing the passphrase and bootstrap work that was a bit broken when we launched.
Yep. So this is the thing that pissed off everybody because we forced them to create a recovery passphrase immediately on registration or on upgrade, and everybody said, oh, why do I have to select 2 passwords? And got confused. So now we're doing 2 big changes which are almost landed. One is to just delay the encryption setup until you actually do something encrypted. So if you're randomly going into a guest room in a public chat room, if you're using it as a Freenode bridge or something, you don't get pestered around about scary end-to-end encryption stuff. But also we give you the option of setting a passphrase or the system generating a recovery key for you, or your client generating a key for you. And we're kind of presenting them as equal citizens. There was one point where we killed passphrases entirely, to the extent that Dave actually implemented that all on Riot Web, and then Nand woke up in the middle of the night with an epiphany, realizing he could actually balance the 2 side by side. But we have the new UX coming together for that, and it looks super sexy, and poor Dave gets to re-implement it again. Yay.
He doesn't seem too fussed about it, luckily.
Honestly, I'd rather that we just keep iterating on it until we actually get it right, even if it means going down a dead alley and backing up and doing it again, because this time we are determined that Riot is going to be amazing.
On the bootstrap side of things, what was the issue? It wasn't super stable, right?
Yeah, it's just races, particularly resilience to overloaded servers or network problems. The bootstrap process of setting up cross-signing for the first time requires a lot of API hits, and some of them weren't being reliably retried. And if you crash your client in the middle of it, will it be able to resume at the right place, and generally making it as robust as possible. And Bruno has been stuck in that particular swamp for a bit now.
And this is going to land on all 3 platforms almost. I think it was mobile is a bit late, but
yeah, I think it was mainly a problem on web. Honestly, I think that the mobile guys might have made it a bit more reliable in the first place.
Yeah, but the passphrase stuff, I think, is on the 3 platforms.
Oh well, the problem actually was that iOS and I think Android didn't have the bootstrap set up at all. So this is both making web work.
Yeah, and I think Android had it, but not iOS.
Yes. Okay. Yep. You're right.
So yeah. Otherwise, other shiny, glossy stuff. The room lists.
Oh god, Travis's room list. Travis is very proud of his room list.
Yeah. So if you're feeling adventurous, you can try the lab on DevLab, but I would suggest you wait a bit because it's not yet fully glossy, but it does have a hint of what it's going to do in the final version. But yeah, the shape of things to come. But it's very much in progress. And again, we've thrown designers at the problem where Matthew and myself have spent way too much time trying to design this app and driving it into the wall. So.
Basically, once upon a time, we had the left panel that was just a one big scrolly thing. and then we put sticky headers on the top and bottom so that as you scrolled it, you could quickly jump back to the sections, and it worked pretty well. We kind of liked it, but the problem is that if you had a gazillion rooms, you still had to keep scrolling through them, and it just felt a bit unwieldy. Then with Riot 1.0, we switched to letterboxes, where you have these little panes which you can scroll independently, which Amandine and myself really, really like, and everybody else has a kind of claustrophobic panic attack when they see them, particularly first-time user experiences and particularly designers. And it's another instance that our power usage is being slightly, not overridden, but hopefully we've got the now platonic ultimate mix of scrollable panels and, well, it's, yeah, basically best of both worlds. You got sticky headers to some extent, and you can resize the panels so you can pretend that you're kind of sort of scrolling through them if you squint the right way and hold your nose a bit. I think it's going to work, and it will definitely.
I'm waiting to see after 2 weeks of usage.
It will definitely be better for first-time users, and yes. I reckon it could be good enough for us too. So let's see. But congratulations! It's also a total rewrite of the whole thing. Performance is massively improved. It's using an entirely new state management model so that it there was a problem on the old one that every time a new message came in, it would completely re-render itself. And if you're on a busy account, you get a new message in a room somewhere, like a couple of times a second. Whereas now it correctly handles that much more intelligently. And you can get previews of messages, which have you seen that?
I was about to say it. Yeah, I was about to mention it, which is really fun. And you can choose whether you want alphabetic ordering or if you want pair activity, if you want to stick your notifications at the top of the list. And because, again, a lot of people are like, I don't understand why the rooms are jumping around. I want the same thing as Slack. It's alphabetic, it's easier. It's like, what? That's, yeah. So everyone is happy because everyone can choose.
Precisely. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm really, really glad we've got message previews back because we had that in Matrix Console before Riot, and it was really nice having the most recent message on the left-hand side, and we lost it, and now it's back. What else?
What else? In terms of glossy stuff coming up as well, Matrix.2 is having a nice... what's the term? I forget. But
nose job, rhinoplasty.
Yeah, that's the kind of things I was after. It's not exactly this one, but that will work.
It's getting lots of plastic surgery, thanks to Yorick and Nick on the design team, because the current Matrix.2 was done by me in an afternoon as a temporary. We need something here urgently, and I'm sure we'll get
2014.
Fixed. Yeah, actually might have been 2015, but clearly we'll fix that in a few days because it was just a temporary placeholder, and like all the best temporary placeholders, 5 years later hasn't changed until now. So warning that there is a massive, very pretty redesign to Matrix.2 coming up. Really, really looking forward to it. Yorick's having lots of fun with that. Peer-to-peer?
And then, yeah, on the less visually pretty thing, but more technically interesting, peer-to-peer.
I don't know, you say that. Have you seen it? So Neil Alexandra has got Riot iOS peer-to-peered up with Yggdrasil now. And
well, it's just Riot iOS visually, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, hey, look, our UX has completely changed. It's just iOS. Like, visually, it's not changing
just
much,
iOS.
But...
It is Riot iOS with Dendrite wedged up its jacksie, going and talking peer-to-peer with the rest of Matrix.
But the magic of it is that you don't know that if you just look at it. So
I know.
On one hand, it's the magic, but that's a big thing. Technically, it's interesting.
So I haven't played with it myself because it's been battling with TestFlight to get a TestFlight build out. But the really, really sexy thing is that it's even got all of the AWDL and multicast DNS stuff hooked up on it. So that basically, if you're running a peer-to-peer Dendrite on your desktop already, you install the app on your phone and you launch it, I don't think you even need to create an account, but it will magically join and see the laptop and then join the rest of the wider network. So if you then killed the internet access, they'd still be able to work. So it's literally the dream that multiple people on the same LAN pop up on the same thing on their phones, and then it spreads and connects to the wider network. So Yggdrasil is looking pretty good so far. It has some issues, like it doesn't exist on the web. I was having a play getting it to work on the web at the weekend. I think it's doable, but we're not quite there yet. And also, if somebody attacks the root of the tree, then it all goes a bit pear-shaped. there are ways we can solve this, but it's being a really fun second POC, and then we've got a gossip POC on the horizon, a gossip pub gossip pub, pub sub, libp2p demo on the horizon, and then possibly we're doing one with DAT and Hyperswarm and Hyperchat and things as well. But peer-to-peer stuff is going great guns. Dendrite's looking good too. Keegan's been blitzing through, improving the architecture, refactoring it, and also doing tests, and it's now up to over 40% side test completeness, which is really high because you've got to understand it's not a linear relationship. The first 40% are the really important ones. The other ones we don't care about and are going to be dead easy to do. So Dendrite is getting better.
Good. Otherwise, there is stuff more on the wider ecosystem. I think that's about it around us very closely.
Basically, lots and lots of stuff on Riot with the first-time UX.
Yeah, it's progressing well. And on the wider ecosystem side, there is Modular, which is sprouting a SAML integration.
I heard that they had
I think it's
Google SAML is live as of today, so you can now authenticate your modular users via Google Apps, which is going to be cool for people who are using Gmail.
It's very, very new, and Rick was a bit stressed
yes,
about whether it was ready or not.
We might have kind of accidentally announced it as live when it wasn't live, and then we kind of had to make it live. But hey, that's the best reason to make something live.
And Conduit is supporting key backups.
Yeah, so Timo and the Conduit team charged off to implement online key backups, and successfully did so with a slight catch that I think that it might not take all of the cross-signing new work into account. Sorry, that's our stuff for our fault for not having merged enough of the new stuff into the spec. But as you can tell from earlier, we're still kind of iterating on it, like the key passphrase, key backup stuff, or recovery passphrase stuff, and it all ties together. But we will obviously try to help them. Also had an interesting conversation with somebody. I suspect he'll probably be happy for me to say that Saul from Jitsi was reaching out to deep dive into getting Olm and Megolm working on Jitsi for their end-to-end encrypted video conferencing, which is pretty cool. And we've got Synapse entirely. And Synapse now has got, you've got clustered media repositories at last. So we can now shard the media worker, which is good because even though the master worker now shards, or not shards, but it's at least no longer hit the ceiling, the media repository promptly overloaded too. So that's now fixed as well. Although we are we're seeing a regression on master performance on the event persister on matrix.org for the last couple of weeks, which I don't think we've got to the bottom of. So apologies if you see a bit of sluggishness whilst we try to figure out where our CPU has gone again. Anything else?
Right. I think there is news on the horizon.
You think there's news on the horizon? That's the most anticlimactic thing I think I've ever heard of. So this is a little Easter egg.
It's pretty anticlimactic news, right?
Are we talking about the same thing?
I don't know. Okay, go ahead and I'll see.
Are you being... Is this some kind of Gallic sarcasm? A little Easter egg for anybody who can be asked to listen to us waffle on for the whole episode is that next week, probably on Monday, we will be announcing some fairly big changes on the horizon for...
So that's what we're aligned, right? It's pretty big change.
Yeah, but climatic, not anticlimactic. Anticlimactic means boring. This is an English language disaster.
Sorry.
Okay, no, I have to record the entire episode again. It'll be take 55.
You should take beep.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go and beep out this entire thing. No, I can't be bothered to re-edit this, so we're going to stay with this. But basically, not anticlimactic, very climactic. On Monday, we're going to announce some fairly big changes on the horizon, and basically, the story is that, as some people have probably already know, we've mentioned it occasionally over the last year or so in the public chat rooms, Matrix HQ, etc., that we have some issues with the name Riot for the app. And it's not just that Riot is a pretty violent thing when taken out of context, even though we intend it to be used to mean a riot of colour. People see it as a riot of Molotov cocktails and trying to kill people. But also, it turns out that there are some other very big companies with lots of money and lots of lawyers who really, really don't like us using the word riot and have been causing various levels of problems over the years, ever since we picked the name. And there are also some other problems that people can get very confused on as first-time users between what is this app, Riot? What is this hosting platform, Modular? What is this company, New Vector, who's building these things? It sounds kind of ominous and evil or whatever the hell. And suffice it to say that we have a name change and a rebranding on the horizon in the next couple of weeks. And we wanted to give people a heads up before, rather than just dumping it on the community like we did when we renamed Vector to be Riot in the first place, and everybody said, seriously, could have given us a heads up. Well, guys, consider this a heads up, at least a little Easter egg heads up. But we'll do a blog post or something on Monday to say, look, everybody in the Matrix world, we're sorry. We know how nightmarish it is to have a name change, particularly another name change for Riot. Once if the app is just getting good enough that you're telling your friends and family to use it, and people recognize it as a trusted app and a trusted brand, and starting to get name dropped all over the press, and then suddenly we screw it up by renaming it. Honestly, if we are going to do that, and I think we have to, in order to avoid problems down the line with the people who don't like us using that name, now is the right time to do it, before the final wave of first-time user experience lands, before we finally have an app which is punching its weight against Slack and Discord. And we're pretty committed to this. We'll keep the name itself as an element of surprise at this point, but we'll see. We'll do the actual announcement once we're ready to press the button, and once the basically once the app is ready to go. So there you go, completely unscripted, unrehearsed, unplanned, minor anticlimactic thing to drop in at the end there. What do you think, Amandine?
Yeah, I think I agree it's going to be complicated for people who spent a lot of time and effort to get their friends and family used to this name and this app. But on the plus side, the wave of changes coming up at the same time of the rebrand, we've gone through the list of all of them, right? And it's going to really make it easier. And hopefully people will get over the name and just get enthusiastic about the app itself. And it will be a short, painful moment and will be forgotten in a few months.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry guys, I think it's really worth it, honestly. And
critically, it's a much better name too.
Yes, that too.
Cool. Okay, well, let us go and try to finish off our weeks, and hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Hope that Ben hasn't put out Twin without this, thinking that we gave up on him. And thanks for
Next
doing...
time he will warn us.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for doing the Matrix Live, Amandine. Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.